woman was a serious gardener. Every year, she was one of the first customers at the nursery, often while snow was still present in the corners of her yard. But her enthusiasm did not necessarily result in success. Her attempts were mostly mediocre. Plants failed to flourish. In some years, she would struggle to keep anything alive. And there was the constant maintenance, cleaning, and attending to unwanted things in the garden. She grew into a habit of speaking to Jesus as she worked. Her most repeated comment was, "I have much to plant, but it seems I spend all my time pulling up weeds." This is the 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time. The readings today offer an opportunity to reflect on our own conversations or prayers and whether or not we perceive Jesus' response to our particular approach. In the first reading, we hear a portion of the wisdom of Sirach. Sirach was a sage who lived in Jerusalem around 200 BC. He wrote to offer instruction to others on various subjects, including family, community, relations with one another, and relations with God. Sirach's book is not part of the Jewish Old Testament, nor is it included in the Protestant Bible. However, it has been used by the Catholic Church for centuries to present moral teachings to catechumens and to the faithful. In the passage that we hear today, Sirach advises that although God welcomes all who call on him, God listens to the one who serves God willingly. Sirach adds that God listens intensely to those who have no power, and God always responds. After a summer with especially disappointing results, the woman complained to Jesus in her failing garden. "How can this be going so wrong? I've used the best fertilizers I can find, used the best tools to turn the soil, planted the best plants that I can buy." Then she seemed to hear a response. "Maybe you're making it too complicated." In the second reading, Paul is writing to Timothy. Paul is late in his ministry, probably in prison, awaiting trial. He's been abandoned by most of the Christian community. Paul's prospects are not promising, but Paul is unafraid. Paul writes that because he's kept faith with Jesus, he knows that Jesus will give him strength and will bring him into his kingdom. Fall was coming, and the woman listened to the voice that she heard. She reimagined her garden and began a new, different approach. She cut down all the dead and dying plants, leaving them where they fell. She covered all the gardening areas with cardboard, soaking them with water as she went. She then added a deep covering of wood chips. She observed the scene and spoke to Jesus. "I have done what I can. Now I'm giving it to you." Then the woman went inside for winter. In the gospel today, Jesus tells of two people of prayer. Jesus describes a Pharisee who is observant of the law, fasts as he is required, contributes a full share of his income, and is not greedy, dishonest, or worldly. The Pharisee appears to be a model citizen and churchman, someone who we would be happy to be around. Jesus then describes a tax collector. He is a man who works for the Romans, takes money from his own people to pay Roman taxes, and is treated like a traitor by his community. Yet, Jesus points to the tax collector as the one whom God prefers. The woman spent the winter months reading about many methods of gardening, finally settling on one she thought Jesus would like. She decided that this was the plan she would follow during the coming season. And in the spring, the woman returned to the garden. She planted when the frost was no longer a danger, when the soil had warmed, when the spring rains were plentiful, and when there were longer days with more sunlight. And then she said to Jesus, "Now I'm waiting on you." We, as Christians and Catholics, are told throughout our life that prayer should be a normal, habitual part of our daily life and routine. Yet, some only pray when they need forgiveness. Some approach God only when they want something, or when they are in fear or pain. Then, some stop praying when they feel that their prayer is not answered. Father William Barry, a Jesuit author, calls prayer a conscious and personal relationship with God. He also describes it as a friendship. Friends want to be with each other. Sirach offers the observation that in our willingness to be with God, even though we recognize we are powerless to make God do our will, God is pleased to listen to us and will answer. Paul writes that he is unafraid of what is to come, unafraid of the challenges, the disappointments, the pain that he has endured. He knows that his friend Jesus is still present when everybody else has abandoned him. Jesus observes to the crowd that the person of prayer who approaches in humility is the person whom God notices. That year, the woman's garden flourished like never before. Plants grew, birds came, bees worked in the flowers. The fruit from the garden was abundant, and there were no weeds. The readings today remind us that our prayer life should establish a relationship and a friendship with Jesus. The woman in the garden engaged her God, and like the woman, if we are spending too much time pulling up weeds, we may wish to ask Jesus in humility and without fear and as a friend for his participation in our life. Once we have asked, then it will be time for us to listen and respond when Jesus answers.
Let us now profess our faith. I believe in one God, the Father,